Are you confused about the term CPA versus accountant versus enrolled agent versus CFO versus bookkeeper? Are you trying to figure out which type of accountant you need for your business? Well, that is what this video is about. Stay tuned. I'm going to break it all down for you and try to provide some clarity on this pretty confusing topic. All right, well, welcome back to the Clara CFO Group channel. I am super excited to talk to you guys today about my industry, about the accounting industry, about what is a bookkeeper versus a CPA, who are these people, and do you need to hire them, or really, who do you need to hire here? So we all are running small businesses, and I get all the time requests for, hey, I need a CPA, do you have a great recommendation? Or, hey, I need a bookkeeper, do you have a great recommendation? And I do, I have a lot of great recommendations, but sometimes what people are asking for doesn't necessarily match up to the service that's being provided. So what I want to talk through with you today is what these different roles should do for your business so you can identify what is the best fit, so that when you go to hire somebody, you know the services that you need to be asking for, and you also are going to be equipped with the right terminology. All right, so let's just dive right in. One of the very basic things that most small business owners are going to hire at one point in time or another is a bookkeeper. So a bookkeeper really is, literally break it down, someone who keeps the books. What that means is that they are in charge of recording the transactions to the proper classification. So that literally means they're looking at your bank statement or your credit card statement or the transactions that are happening that your business is generating, and they are coding or classifying those things to the right accounts. And when I say accounts, that means what accounts are in your books. So things like, is it revenue? Is it cost of goods sold? Is it office supplies? Is it office expenses? Is it rent? Is it utilities? What is it in your business? They are putting those charges into the right classification, into the right category. So if they see a $3,000 charge come in, they might know, okay, that's the monthly rent payment. And so they classify it to that. And that means that at the end of the day, you are able to pull a profit and loss statement, or you're able to pull a balance sheet. And that means that things are organized properly. So think of bookkeepers as kind of the professional organizers of the accounting world. They are the ones that are going to get into the nitty-gritty detail, and they're going to suss out exactly what's happened, and they love things being in the right place. Okay, so when you're hiring a bookkeeper, think about that type of quality in a person. Do they love the detail? Do they love really getting in there and making sure things are in the right place? And are they kind of like ruthless about it? Are they going to go and look for that last penny? Those are the types of people who are really, really great bookkeepers and do a good job recording all those classifications. Now, I would say bookkeepers are probably the widest classification of any accounting terminology or any accounting profession. So there isn't really any kind of standardized qualifications for bookkeepers. You know, like QuickBooks will do a pro advisor, you know, people who've gone through their certification, or maybe Xero or these softwares will have certifications, but there's nothing standardized across the board for a, you know, national bookkeeping certification. Okay. So sometimes this means that you're going to have people who are not very experienced who just think, hey, I can classify transactions, and they will start up a business being a bookkeeper, which maybe that's okay for some small business owners, but you need to think about, if you're looking to hire somebody, do you need somebody who has a lot of experience? Do you need somebody who has very specific industry experience? You know, what do you really need in your business? Are you looking for somebody who can also advise you? Because then we're going to get into that in just a little bit. Okay. Now, sometimes bookkeepers are not very good at, well, really all of us in the accounting profession are actually pretty bad at marketing ourselves. Okay, like I'm just going to call out my own kind here. We're not very good at telling people exactly what we do and communicating it really clearly. So somebody might call themselves a bookkeeper, but they might do lots of other things as well. They might be able to prepare your taxes, or they might be able to also pay bills for you, or they might even be able to do kind of some financial analysis and something that's a little bit more complicated than just recording transactions. Okay, so that's why I want to make that classification and clarification on what is a bookkeeper, okay? So if they're doing more than just that recording of those transactions, reconciling your bank statements, so at the end of the day, you have a profit and loss and a balance sheet to look at. If they're doing more than that, then they're a step up from a bookkeeper, okay? They might be a bookkeeper, but they might also have skills that encompass more than that, okay? So kind of the next step that I would say after kind of a bookkeeper, somebody who takes it to the next level, would be a full charge bookkeeper. So full charge bookkeeper, sometimes this is also classified as an accountant, but a full charge bookkeeper would be in charge of also potentially paying bills for you, also running your payroll, also maybe creating invoices and following up on accounts receivable with your customers. So their accounting role has expanded to basically touch almost anything that is numbers related, okay? So that is kind of an expanded role. So you might, when you're getting started, you might just hire a bookkeeper to only do the recording of transactions for you. But as you grow and as it becomes like a bigger role, you might also want someone starting to pay bills for you, or you might want some additional services. So that is outside of the typical bookkeeping role. So you need to be really clear. If you're hiring a bookkeeper, do you want them to be paying bills? Do you want them to be following up on accounts receivable for you? Do you want them to be running payroll for you? Because that might not be assumed when you just say, hey, I've hired a bookkeeper, okay? So make sure you're really clear. What are you actually going to do for me every single month when you're hiring that bookkeeper, okay? Because you need to know, because it might make sense for you to pay a bookkeeper just, $200 or $300 a month just to record your transactions, but it might make sense for you to pay $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 a month for a full charge bookkeeper who can really help you in the operations of your business if that's something that really takes a load off your plate, okay? So I wanted to let you know about that. The next real classification that starts to get really kind of wishy-washy and all sorts of different things come into play is when we start talking about taxes. So bookkeepers and full charge bookkeepers don't really do anything for taxes, okay? They should not be doing a tax return for you unless they are also cross-certified in something else. Just because somebody likes numbers doesn't mean they should be doing tax returns for you, okay? Or really any tax type of preparation. So when we get to the next level, when it starts to come to tax compliance, and what I mean by tax compliance, I mean doing your tax return and then, filing any forms that you need on a regular basis. So we have different categories. At kind of the first level would be a certified tax preparer. Some states have certifications for tax preparers. Some organizations might have some type of certification that tax preparers can go through, or even maybe some companies who are training their tax preparers. That would be kind of like the first level. The next level would be an enrolled agent. An enrolled agent is somebody that's been federally certified to be able to do tax returns and to be able to do other tax communications. An enrolled agent is somebody who is kind of mostly focused on taxes. Sometimes they also are cross-trained with bookkeeping, just make sure you're really clear there. But if you see EA after somebody's name, that's what that means. That means enrolled agent. And that is something that's kind of a program of the IRS. Now, kind of the next step to go like a step further, that's where we get to the term CPA. So CPA means Certified Public Accountant, and that is a program that is usually it's state board certified, but it's kind of every state has a designation for a CPA. Okay, so the individual states can have somewhat different rules, but usually it means that the individual has to go through a number of years of school, and then they have to go through a number of years of work experience, and then they have to sit for a very intense exam, have to get a certain score on that exam. It's multiple parts. It's very challenging. It takes a lot of time to study for. Think of it kind of like the bar for lawyers. It's the accountant equivalent, like the bar for lawyers and then the CPA exam for accountants. So typically CPAs are where you're going to see the highest rate per hour over these other tax preparers and EAs, okay? So I just want to make sure that that's really clear, because if you're wanting someone to do your books and you hire a CPA who is offering bookkeeping services, you're going to probably pay more per hour than you would if you hired a a bookkeeper to do it. Now, when it comes to tax preparation, you can also look at this as, what do you really need? Do you need kind of a basic Schedule C tax return done for you with just a 1040 and like a very simple tax structure? If that's the case, maybe a tax preparer is the best way to go, which probably is the lowest cost. Or do you have maybe something a little bit more complex where you'd like to have somebody who has more experience under their belt? You know, an EA, it makes sense. You can go to an EA, okay? I don't have any really like clear, bright line designations between like, you know, don't go to a CPA unless, you know, X, Y, or Z. Because also these people in these designations have a very wide range of skill levels. You could have a CPA who's charging a very high rate, who is not paying any attention to you and is not doing a great job for you. Or you could have a tax preparer who is like so concerned about doing it right that they're going to put in their heart and soul to making sure that they get it done correctly. So, you know, use your best judgment, both in character and professional experience, get references on anybody that you plan to work with, and make sure that you are finding the right fit for your business. But all of those people are people who can do tax preparation for you. I would recommend it. The more complex you go, the more complex your business gets, the higher designation you're probably going to want to go. And you're going to try to find somebody who also has specific experience with your industry or with your specific tax issues. So if you are a business that is buying and selling real estate on a regular basis, you might want to go with somebody who has real estate experience. If you are a construction company, there's lots of specific things about construction companies that you might want to find a CPA or an EA that has experience in that. Or if you are a retail business that you have brick and mortar and e-commerce, you might want to make sure that you find somebody who understands inventory and understands the tax implications of that. And also, you know, then you start to look at sales tax issues, which is kind of separate, and we can talk about that in another video. All right, so tax compliance. We covered tax compliance. Those are the types of people that you would be hiring if you're looking for someone to do a tax return for you. Now, a lot of people hire CPAs, EAs, tax preparers, and think that they're going to get tax strategy and tax advice and how do I save money on taxes. They are going to automatically assume, because they're hiring someone to do their tax return, that then therefore they're going to get tax tips, tax advice, tax strategy, tax planning, however you want to call it. And I'm just trying to tell you guys, just because you've hired someone to do your taxes does not mean that they are watching out for you to get the lowest tax bill possible. Okay, you have to typically engage them separately to have that service. Okay, this is critical. A lot of people think this comes along with the package of their whatever, of their, you know, I'm filing a S Corp tax return. Obviously, they're going to tell me to, you know, this person is thinking, obviously, they're going to tell me how I can save money on my taxes. That's not the case, you guys. Tax compliance is different from tax planning. And you need to make sure that you are engaging the professional the way that you want, like what services do you actually need? Are you engaging them to do tax planning for you? Because that is critical, okay? A lot of CPAs will be like, hey, just call me whenever you want to. You know, but that means that you as the business owner have to think about the questions to then therefore go and talk to the CPA about. And that is probably one of the biggest problems that we have, is that people don't often know the questions to ask. And so how are they supposed to ask questions they don't even know to ask? So what you want to do is, if you have a desire to lower your tax bill and you're looking for someone to give you strategy, to give you planning, to sit down with you before it's time to actually go and do your tax return and think, how can I lower my tax bill? Then you need to communicate that upfront with whoever is doing your tax returns, because not every CPA or EA does that. Some people just say, hey, I only want to do returns. I don't want to do any planning, because honestly, for some people, it feels very risky to help you try to predict the future and what's going to happen in the future and give you advice like that. They'd rather just deal with the historical facts and pump out tax returns, okay? Not bad to do that, but just think, some companies are going to look for option or ways for you to save money through tax planning services, and some are just going to do compliance. So figure out which one you want to go with. Think about what you need in your business. So the next level that I want to talk to you guys about, and I'm not saying that you have one or the other. I'm saying these are layers. You're going to need a bookkeeping layer. You're going to need a tax compliance layer. And once your business grows to a certain extent that you're starting to feel like you really need to have more forward-looking decision making, and you need to have more assistance with maybe financial analysis or reviewing metrics or forecasting, it might be time to consider a CFO. So sometimes people come to me because, remember guys, my company, Clara CFO Group, we do virtual CFO services for small businesses specifically. And sometimes people come to me and they ask if I can do a tax return for them. And I say, actually, no, we don't provide tax services. Here's maybe a recommendation based on my network. But what a CFO, and then they go, well, what do you do if you're a CPA, especially if I have CPA behind my name? What do you do as a CPA? So what we do is we do financial strategy, and we help the business look forward by using the information that was provided in the financial statements. So the bookkeeper prepared the financial statements by classifying everything in the right way. Then the CFO, or the business owner can do this if they are, able to look at financial statements and make sense of them and know what to do next. The CFO would come in and do that if the business owner is not able to do that themselves. So the CFO is the Chief Financial Officer. So the CEO, Chief Executive Officer, CFO, Chief Financial Officer. And so this is a role that, can look really different depending on the size of the company. So if you're kind of less than a couple $100,000 in annual revenue, you probably aren't really needing much CFO guidance right now, especially not necessarily on an ongoing basis. Maybe a little bit of strategy here or there, but not anything super crazy. But as you start growing, as you start adding employees, as you start gaining complexity, locations, systems coming in different ways, really employee growth or just client service growth or whatever that looks like, things start to get more complex, and sometimes they feel out of control for the business owner. And so they are looking for oftentimes strategy to help them say, I want to make this decision. How is that going to affect me financially? And that is where the CFO really comes in. They talk about financial strategy, forward-looking strategy, and help guide the business owner based on actual numbers and based on real data. Okay, so a CFO can help track KPIs. A CFO can work on that forecasting that we were talking about, sales forecasting or cash flow forecasting. They can help establish budgets. They can help on processes, how to improve processes or policies. They can help analyze the financial statements to say, where do we need to change? What can be improved to increase profitability? So that is the role of the CFO. Okay. Now for a small business, like I said, that can look really different. You can have fractional level CFOs because most people, it doesn't make sense until you get to probably about $50 million in annual revenue. You probably don't need a full-time CFO on your staff. So that's where fractional agencies really come in because they are able to serve at the level that the business owner really needs. And so Clara CFO Group is actually focused on kind of micro-fractional. We focus on small businesses that are less than $10 million in annual revenue. So sometimes that just means that we meet with our clients on, a couple times a month where we kind of help them in exactly what they need, but they don't need somebody there for 8 hours a week or anything like that. So it's just, we kind of right size to what the small business needs at that time in their growth journey. Okay. So lots of options for CFOs. You can also get options for CFOs to help you, like if you're going for like venture capital, you can go that direction. We focus on organic growth businesses that are kind of more the business owner just trying to like make enough money to continue growing their own business without getting outside investment. So there are CFOs everywhere who can help with all sorts of different things. A lot of them will focus on industry. So I have people in my network who focus on the medical industry alone, or people who focus on e-commerce, which I actually think is a really good idea. So so that you can gain efficiencies and also gain industry knowledge to help those businesses more and more. Again, strategy, right? Okay, so think strategy when you think CFO. Okay, well, I hope that was helpful to you as we're breaking down the different terminology, trying to help you figure out maybe what sounds like what you need right now. And if you have any other comments, or if you and I just want to say, like, I'm not trying to be down on my industry or anything like that. Sometimes we just aren't the ones that are great at talking about ourselves, which is not necessarily a bad thing until it comes to business and it comes to marketing and really trying to get the right clients for our business. So, it's okay to ask questions if you're going to hire some of these people. Say, what exactly do you encompass in bookkeeping? What does my tax return get me? Does it just get me the return, or do I have any planning that goes along with it? Do I have a number of phone calls with you every month? Like, what does this actually look like? Those are questions that are very valid as you go and you engage one of these professionals. So I hope this empowers you a little bit more to go and make a good decision for your small business, because ultimately accountants are here to help you achieve financial success. Okay, so the more equipped you are to hire the right person for your team, the more likely that is going to happen. All right, thank you so much. Please leave any comments in the comment section below. And also, if you made it here, please like this video, because if you're still listening to me, hopefully it's helpful. And also make sure you're subscribed to the channel for more financial information for your small business.